bases on Venus and Mars, and Mars began to lose its atmosphere, and they eventually made their way to Earth. So they colonized Earth at the time of very primitive humans, and they genetically upgraded us through hybridization, apparently.
In your book, you mention a witness who witnessed an ET, was taken on board their craft, and was told that in the alien society there was no need for money.
This was Sid Patrick in California in 1965. He's still alive, by the way. I find his one of the most convincing experiences, and he was investigated by the military. I've described the questions the military asked him, and one of them was, we don't want you to mention this, and particularly, you know, that they had no money in their society and everything. And when we talk about they don't have any money society, I mean, from what I've gathered from other sources, it doesn't mean to say you get something for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds to me like...
It's not a utopia, you know, in terms of you can just grab what you like.
Yeah, it sounds almost like an extreme socialism or even communism, perhaps.
Well, it might sound like that to the Americans, yes.
Okay, which is why they probably don't want to mention it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I have heard other contactees say that.
Yes.
That we are the only race which actually has money, and it's used as basically as a control mechanism.
I wouldn't know about that, but, you know, we need some form of exchange and credit.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us get on very well without any money at all, but manage to spend billions on credit cards.
And a lot of people think, if I just ask you about the Illuminati, I mean, do you think, because the answers that you've given me so far, you're saying that it's broadly the military that's in control of the information, and it's the military that's in control of the cover-up, shall we say, and whether we're going to all find out about it. Now, what about people who aren't involved in military, but who perhaps have positions of power? Many people believe that the cover-up is being perpetrated by other families, family dynasties who are a part of the Illuminati. What's your view on that?
There's something to it. I think some people, I mean, what do you mean by the Illuminati? I mean, there's
secret societies like the Freemasons or the Round Table, and etc.
No, certainly not the Round Table, I can tell you that. But Masons, I don't know. I very much doubt whether there might, at the very top, you know, if you're 33rd degree or something, have some knowledge about it. But I think it's certainly true that there are some very powerful people who may be associated with Masons, for example, or the Bilderberger groups who are in possession of this knowledge and might not want the mass of humanity to learn about it. That is quite possible.
Okay. And do you think that we call it the cover-up, do you think that's actually perpetrated by an alien force then? Or do you think that's purely human beings?
That's a very good question, but I myself think, well, the two things I'd like to say about that is that, first of all, from what I've gathered, many of the aliens don't want us to know what they are doing here. And that's kind of understandable, and they could take retaliatory action if, say, those few people in the United States government wanted to start talking. And it's quite possible they've done that already. So it's not in their best interests.
Many people believe that the cover-up isn't purely perpetrated by the military or perhaps even the Illuminati, that there is a link with aliens who are in control of the disclosure or non-disclosure, shall we say. Do you think that people are receiving, or the power structure at the top of it is some kind of alien force?
I do indeed think that is the case, yes. And there's also corporate interests involved, huge sums, billions of money in the black budget is involved in this subject, and it's all covered under weaponry.
So how would, I mean, this is probably going to be a really difficult question, but how would that communication take place between, would it be in an office, just two people sitting, an alien sitting talking to someone in the UN or something like that? Or?
Well, probably not the United Nations, but certainly there have been meetings in offices certainly involving the more human type that, you know, pass among us and are spies, if you like. Those meetings have taken place. Other meetings, I'm told, have been take place at the bases.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And some witnesses...
And that involves both of the basic types
okay.
of aliens who communicate with us.
Do you think an American president, if he found out what was going on, let's say Barack Obama gained some of this knowledge, do you think he would have the power to go for full disclosure?
I learnt, for example, that President Kennedy in 1961, 1962 requested observation of the alien bodies recovered in some of these events, crash retrieval cases. His request was granted, and as I've written in Need to Know, he was taken on Air Force One to Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida, and he viewed the bodies. I don't know much more than that, except it was a top secret mission, and it was headed by General Godfrey T. McHugh. And interestingly, from another source, I learnt that General McHugh replaced one of the principal military attendees at Dallas on 22nd of November 1963 at the last minute. So you could put two and two together and make 22, but I don't know. You know, I think Kennedy was assassinated
Linked
to the fact that he probably wanted to tell the public. You may recall that 3 tramps were arrested near the grassy knoll, suspected of maybe having something to do with the assassination. I think they were eventually released without charge, but one of those so-called tramps was none other than Fred Chrisman, who was a counterintelligence agent for the CIA and with the United States Air Force, who had specialized in the UFO problem.
Right. Okay. So we have a possible link there then.
Definitely.
Okay. And just to go back to, well, no, I want to ask you about some of the other American presidents. Nixon, for example, is alleged to have witnessed the same
Yes.
bodies, perhaps, that Kennedy did. Is that true?
I think it's quite likely he saw them, or at least he took his friend Jackie Gleason to view them at Homestead Air Force Base, also in Florida. But from what I was told by my source, they moved them round Air Force bases, and whereas Kennedy had seen them at Tyndall Air Force Base at a special medical facility.
Okay. And other presidents, you think...
I think Reagan was knowledgeable. For example, I know that George Bush Sr. was extremely knowledgeable on the subject, partly because he was head of CIA, of course, but I think also he'd had, you know, he just has very good contacts anyway.
And what about President Clinton? Because I did hear that he did task someone to go and have a look at Area 51 or something.
He did. Well, no, I think Clinton asked his, I think it was his chief of staff, to look into what the government knew about the UFO situation and about the Kennedy assassination. And apparently he was frustrated in getting the answers that he was looking for. And from what I've gathered, the people in charge of the so-called Alien Liaison project, as I call it, don't look kindly on presidents who don't have a military background.
So the Alien Liaison project is liaising with the military and the president.
Not just military. There's definite corporate involvement.
Okay.
Huge sums of money are involved, more money than on anything else. A lot of these projects are black budget programs buried within, for example, the nuclear industry, nuclear weapons, and other programs. There's nothing about UFOs or aliens that you're going to find. And it's interesting in this connection that in 1993, Ben Rich, who headed the so-called Skunk Works, which developed the stealth fighter plane years ago now.
Infamous Area 51, or near...
Well, certainly the test flights were done from there and other locations.